Hello, I'm Dave Galligan, and the purpose of this YouTube is to revisit the concepts of passage rate and digestion in the dairy cow. Of course, when a cow consumes feed, it passes through the digestive tract, and we measure the speed at which this occurs by a rate called the KP. Now, as food is consumed by the cow, there's almost a pressure effect in terms of as the dry matter intake of the cow increases, this passage rate is going to increase. Furthermore, when the percent concentrate in the ration increases, it's going to increase the passage rate, as well as the when the effective NDF increases, it'll actually slow down the passage rate. So we have a number of features of the ration itself that influence the flow of feed and thus the flow of digestion in the cow. So as this feed is passing, it's exposed to digestive processes in the various stomachs of the cow, and of course this is called the KD, the rate at which this occurs. And so either nutrients are digested or they pass. And of course these KDs are attributes of the different feeds. So here we're looking at the various carbohydrate fractions. You have silage acids, sugars, starch, all of which are influenced by they're part of the carbohydrate pool and influence the rate at which digestion will occur. In a similar manner, we also have protein fractions. So we have the soluble non-protein nitrogen all the way down to the acid detergent fiber protein. And of course, another way to look at this from just a protein perspective is that the cow consumes a certain amount of protein, and then of course it either goes and is degraded in the rumen, or it bypasses and is called rumen undegradable protein. To look at this figuratively, we have a certain type of protein called the C fraction. This is what's bound to the acid detergent fiber that goes, of course, past the whole digestive process. And then we have a component that's called the A fraction that is almost completely digested in the rumen or degraded in the rumen. And then we have what are called the B fractions, which are partially. And so we have some of this passing on as rumen undegradable, and then other components of it being digested right in the rumen. And we measure these with the KP divided by the KD over KP. In other words, what's the rate of passage over the total rate at which losses occur, which is from digestion or passage. And then similarly for what's digested, it's the KD over the total loss rates of KD plus KP. And so notice how these two fractions sum to 1 to indicate the entire B fraction. Another way to look at this is that the rumen degradable protein consists of the A fraction plus the B fraction, and the fraction of that B fraction that is digested in the rumen, which would be the KD divided by KD plus KP. The rumen undegradable is composed of the C fraction plus the component of the B fraction that passes, which would be the KP divided by KD. And so here you see how the various partitions of the rumen degradable and undegradable are presented in the dairy cow. Now, a way to look at this has been through a what we call a dairy dash board, and so here you have the KP of the feed, and you have the opportunity to select different feeds. And so we can see that as we increase the dry matter intake, notice how the KP of the feed increases. So, and here's the formula for this particular feed. So it's 0.6 times the dry matter intake. If we take another forage, a wet forage or dried forage, notice that the equation for the KP is still a function of dry matter, but also a function of the percent of the concentrate. And similarly, when we look at a grain, it has a similar type of equation, different coefficients. So all of these things influence the KP, if you will. All right. Now, when if we look over here, we're looking at the various protein fractions, and notice how the rumen degradable and undegradable are influenced by what we say is the passage rate. So as the passage rate increases, notice the rumen degradable protein is going to decrease. We can also look at the amount of microbial protein that is produced as a function of what is the rumen degradable. But you can also look at varying factors in terms of the when you change the actual feeds. They have different KD values, and look at the impact of a change in the various forage analysis components that then influence the KD. So in other words, as I change the percent effective NDF, we see that this feed passage rate is influenced. Thank you. So a ration is a combination of feeds, all contributing in a way to influence the passage rate, and all contribute to the total passage of feeds. So here we're looking at a ration program where you can put in different feed amounts, 50% forage concentrate, 47 pounds of dry matter, and then we're looking at the actual impact of what is the microbial yield of protein. So as we increase the passage rate, notice that the microbial protein is actually increasing. We can look at different feeds and what have you. Thank you very much.